Racial harmony at the University of Virginia has been more than 16 years in the making. That's when school officials created the Office for Diversity and Equity following an attack on a biracial student by another student. This happened back in 2000.
This was 2003.
2003.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, by 2003, UVA was used to accepting African American students and
That's
Asian
correct.
students and
That is correct.
other minority
That's
students.
correct. So this was an isolated incident, though.
Okay.
But it was a big enough incident to get the Board of Visitors involved, the community involved, and the president involved, and so he made a great choice by putting together this commission on diversity and equity. And as I look back on it, I wouldn't be sitting here today had he not done that.
Marcus Martin is the University of Virginia's Vice President and Chief Officer for Diversity and Equity.
Since this office has been formed, there's been quite a bit of progress made related to increasing a diverse student body here, programs here, community engagement, forward-looking thinking related to what a university should be, creation of memorials to enslaved laborers, amongst many other things. So, yes, there's been progress, but there is more progress to be made.
Martin is also a UVA Professor Emeritus of Emergency Medicine. He is among the key players in building the Memorial to Enslaved Laborers. He shared with me his thoughts on racism in America.
I grew up in the Jim Crow era, as well as my wife. I went to all-black school. My wife went to all-black school. We grew up in Allegheny County, Virginia. We only knew black teachers. My wife's last year, she was going to Jefferson School in Clifton Forge. There was forced integration, so she did go to Clifton Forge High School and had white classmates and white teachers. From that point, I went to NC State University, where I was one of only about 100 students. It's a bigger place, about 100 African American students, so about 20,000 students there. So I was in a group of firsts all along the way. I was the first African American to walk on and play football at NC State. Coming here as the first African American chair of a clinical department, first African American to graduate from a residency program in emergency medicine in Cincinnati. So there's a lot of firsts, and my comfort level has been very good over time, and I've been blessed to have a career and climb a career ladder. That's not the same for everybody, and not everybody will come to somewhere like the University of Virginia and see it, certainly not with rose-colored glasses.
Unarmed black men being gunned down in the streets of America have been consistent since the founding of the country in 1776.
African American males, obviously we know the history there in terms of the turmoil that we face at the hands of police, but that's not the situation we're seeing here. African American males are not being accosted by police here at the University of Virginia. We're not at the whipping blocks. We don't have bloodhounds running after us. We don't have iron collars around our necks. We don't have iron collars around our ankles. We don't have iron collars around our wrists. We are free to be educated. We're free to go to church. We're free to pray. We're free to interact. We're free to have interracial relationships. So we're free to do a lot of things. Now, it depends on the individuals that you're dealing with. There's still racists. There are many racists in this world, white supremacists in this world. So those folks have raised their ugly heads here at the University of Virginia, and they've raised their ugly heads elsewhere. So the country still has its issues. It has its legacy of slavery, has its aftermath of slavery. We have the economic disparities of African Americans and whites in this country. That's going to take a long time to repair. So it's not a University of Virginia issue. It is a United States of America issue.
Having said that, with UVA building this memorial, could this memorial change the way America looks at race?
I think it is changing it to some degree. And we have a 45-member consortium called University Studying Slavery, and UVA has taken the lead in doing some of the education and research, and some of the other institutions are beginning to do the same. People will see the institution, looking at its past, trying to atone for its past, but understanding its past so we can move forward towards the future and make the future more inclusive. I think we're at the point where we're raising that history and raising a memorial as opposed to taking down statues or memorials here. And we have taken off the rotunda plaques with names of Confederate soldiers who were associated with the University of Virginia, and those plaques have been put elsewhere. I think they will end up at the UVA cemetery, I believe. There is a statue, Civil War statue of a Confederate soldier in UVA cemetery, and I personally have no need to see those removed from the cemetery. But the memorial itself, I think, will show people that the institution is serious about reflecting on its past and showing its past and trying to atone for its past, but also moving in a forward-thinking direction.
Martin says every department at the university must do its part to help the school become a more welcoming place for all students.
Our goal is to synergize efforts all around the University of Virginia to make this a more welcoming, inclusive environment, and to diversify and to coordinate a number of councils and committees.
Martin is the co-chair of the President's Commission on Slavery and the University.
What I did realize over the 23 years that I've been here, early on, there was not much talk about who actually built this institution and the roles of enslaved. It was hush-hush about Thomas Jefferson's life and the fact that he held 600 enslaved individuals. So as Monticello, Montpelier, Hollins began to do more work around enslaved laborers and the history of their institutions, we began to do more here at the University of Virginia. I've been very comfortable in my own skin and being tenured and being able to speak up. Therefore, speaking with President Sullivan, speaking with the Board of Visitors about let's recognize enslaved laborers' contributions.
Construction of the memorial continues. It is scheduled to be completed in October.
Let's go from the small, almost hidden monument to something that's very visible. Something that's on the scale of the rotunda in terms of the footprint. And it's an 80-foot diameter footprint, the same as the rotunda footprint. And it rests on the UNESCO World Heritage Site footprint. Some of the designs would have called for it to be squeezed into small spaces between pavilions, areas where a lot of folks from the community would not come and venture to see anyway. But it's close to the UVA corner, and no way to miss it when you're driving past the corner or walking past the corner. It will be 8 feet high at its greatest diameter, and multiple circular walls within it.
The memorial to enslaved laborers will be located near the rotunda. The slaves' names who built the school are scheduled to be engraved on the monument inside a circular wall. Those slaves were owned and rented by President Thomas Jefferson. The University of Virginia was founded in 1819 by Jefferson. In Charlottesville, Elaine Rackley for Breaking Through News.